In the heart of Mississippi in 1849, where cotton grew taller than free men's dreams and the Mississippi River carried more tears than water, there exists a story that official records never dared to document. The Riverside Mansion, with its white columns and perfumed gardens, was the stage for what newspapers of the time called an inexplicable family tragedy. 17 members of Warren County's most prominent families succumbed to a slow and agonizing death during what should have been a joyous wedding day. Doctors were baffled by their contorted expressions, but these haunted faces spoke a truth only known to one woman. Celia, the cook's slave whose hands transformed humble ingredients into potent revenge. She stood at the heart of this historical riddle, driven by the patience to serve justice on the most pristine porcelain plates, a sharp contrast to the world that saw her only as property. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Is this your first time on our channel? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like Celia's, tales that peel back the layers of history to reveal the voices often silenced. The Riverside Plantation was a sprawling 2,000-acre estate along the muddy banks of the mighty Mississippi. Known for its lush rows of cotton and opulent gatherings, it was a beacon of Southern prosperity and privilege. Yet behind this wealth lay untold stories of discipline and survival within the cobbled system of slavery and servitude. Colonel James Riverside ran the estate, imposing rules with an iron fist masked as a velvet glove of civility, his stern gaze shadowing the lives of the 340 slaves he commanded. Embedded in this intricate hierarchy was Celia, who became the culinary gem at the heart of Riverside's respected reputation. But her journey from an 8-year-old child slave to a woman with a powerful vision speaks volumes about the human spirit and the unrelinquished demand for justice. Are you as intrigued by her story as we are? Let us know in the comments, and if this story is already giving you chills, share it with a friend who loves mysteries. The Riverside Plantation functioned as a small kingdom with its own set of rules and expectations. At its helm was Colonel Riverside, whose presence was as commanding as the towering white columns of his mansion. With a demeanor as cold as a winter's morning, he believed discipline held stronger than mere cruelty. But Celia's significance grew not from the hard fist of command, but from her unparalleled skills in the kitchen, a reputation that wafted throughout Mississippi, attracting influential politicians and wealthy planners to dine at Riverside's table. Celia arrived at the plantation in the early 1830s with nothing but a sharp mind and an extraordinary palate. As a child, she possessed an innate talent for identifying flavors, a gift recognized by Mama Ruth. This matronly figure wasn't just a cook. She was a treasure chest of knowledge brought over from Africa, with wisdom spanning herbs, medicinal plants, and crucially, the art of reading and writing, skills that Celia absorbed with ardor. Throughout 16 years, Celia learned the mysteries of spices and the powerful language of plants under Mama Ruth's tutelage. It was here she discovered that every herb had a role to play, whether to heal or to harm. What do you think about the potential of ancient knowledge and its influence? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Under Mama Ruth's guidance, Celia also unlocked the written word. In the quiet of the candlelit kitchen, she mastered the skill of leaving her mark, not in ink or paper, but by infusing each dish she created with a touch of her identity. This culinary kingdom was Celia's domain. Her unparalleled grasp on the culinary arts ensured her a pivotal position within the household, protecting her family by the allure of her irresistible dishes. Yet, beneath the guise of stability, this equilibrium was a delicate mirage, reliant on the capricious moods of the colonel and his family. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Tell us in the comments. Addison Riverside, the colonel's only son, returned to the plantation with an education from Natchez, but lacking the discipline age often bestows. To Celia, he represented a new kind of threat, not just to the young women working under her, but also to her cherished family. His eyes lingered too long on those who had no means of protection, and he wielded his inherited power with reckless abandon. His presence cast a long shadow over the lives of those at the plantation. Celia, ever vigilant, kept her assistant cooks busy and within sight to shield them from Addison's unwelcome advances. But as she balanced these protective measures, a more insidious danger was creeping into her life, threatening the sanctuary she had meticulously crafted. Addison's cruel games extended beyond the eyes of the adults into the curious eyes of the young ones, including Celia's children. During these vulnerable moments in 1848, when fieldwork slowed, Addison's interest turned toward the children, viewing them as pawns in his twisted lessons on hierarchy. A game for him, but the true beginnings of tragedy for Celia. If you were in Celia's position, how would you protect your children from such threats? Share your thoughts in the comments. Celia sensed a change in the air, especially within the slave quarters where anxiety grew as Addison prowled the grounds. Mothers clutched their children tighter, while fathers worked harder and kept their heads down, unable to act, but silently vigilant. Despite her vigilance, she couldn't always be near her own, a helplessness that unsettled her mother's heart. It was an illusion of security she had built, frail, dependent on the whims of those above her. But what happened next will shock you. Stay with us to explore the unfolding events that pushed Celia to take unthinkable measures. Celia's world unraveled one seemingly ordinary October day in 1848. Preparations were underway for a grand dinner, the kind of lavish event that bolstered the colonel's standing among neighboring elite families. This particular morning found Celia caught up in her usual flurry of activity, orchestrating the kitchen with the precision of a conductor. As the day drew on, a heavy black smoke curled into the sky from the old barn, a structure no longer of use, situated at a disturbing proximity to the slave quarters. Celia's heart stilled when she realized her children, Thomas, Mary, and David, hadn't returned to the kitchen by lunch. Panic seized her when Hannah, one of her assistants, burst into the kitchen with news of smoke and screams emanating from the barn. Celia ran, faster than she ever had, her feet propelled by maternal instinct and dread. Others joined her, united in their futile attempts to quell the blaze and rescue those trapped inside. But the inferno proved merciless, denying entry to anyone who might save the children. Samuel, her husband, restrained her as she frantically tried to push through the heat, her body racked by a primal, keening cry when the voices of her little ones were extinguished by the flames. Later, among the charred remnants of the barn, they found the children's bodies entwined in their final embrace. The barn door had been locked from the outside, implicating a sinister hand behind their deaths. But who would commit such a heartless act, and why? Only days after the tragedy, Celia learned from Lily, one of her young assistants, that she had seen Addison talking with her children earlier that day near the barn, promising them a game. Realization and a smoldering resolve tugged the corners of Celia's grief-stricken mind. This was no accident. This was deliberate. What do you make of Celia's discovery? Let us know your thoughts and whether you believe her course of action was justified in the comments below. Celia's soul, once anchored by routine and resilience, began a silent transformation. Reeling from unimaginable loss yet fueled by an insatiable hunger for justice, she made a vow. Never again would she be anyone's pawn. From that night, the identity of Celia the cook began to shift into Celia Washington. Adopting the surname of America's first president was her declaration of freedom, a nod to the fight for independence and a symbol of her new resolve. Her nightly visits to the ashes of the barn became a ritual. There, she vowed to the spirits of Thomas, Mary, and David, her promise of justice resonating in the stillness. These nocturnal confessions, whispered into the windswept ruins, were for the promise that their deaths would not be in vain. Celia's world was now singularly focused on balancing the scales, a task not born of rage, but of the calculated pursuit of justice denied. Within the confines of the kitchen, Celia returned to work with a newfound intensity. No longer was she merely preparing meals to delight. She was crafting a future of her own design. Mama Ruth's teachings became her secret arsenal. The careful study of herbs and plants, once used to heal, now had another potential, one that Celia intended to harness to deliver justice. She began her preparations quietly, often experimenting in the dead of night. Just as she meticulously seasoned her dishes, so did she begin to infuse her knowledge into a plan. Her meticulous nature, once dedicated to culinary perfection, now turned toward measured retribution. The kitchen, her domain, became both a sanctuary and a laboratory for revolution. Her children may have been taken, but Celia was determined that their memory would not fade. Through each silent act of defiance, she crafted a destiny all her own. If you were in Celia's position, what steps would you take in your pursuit of justice? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments. Stay with us. There's more to unveil as Celia's plan begins to take form. If this story is gripping you, be sure to like and share with friends who appreciate the shadows of history. The winter months slipped by, cloaking the riverside plantation in a stillness that belied the intense plotting happening within its bounds. To the outside world, Celia remained the diligent cook whose delectable creations graced the colonel's table. But inside, she was a woman transformed. Each meal she prepared served as a rehearsal for a greater performance, one that would bring a reckoning to those who had taken everything from her. Utilizing the knowledge passed down from Mama Ruth, Celia gathered plants known not only for their culinary uses, but also for their more sinister capabilities. She forged her plan with the precision of a master craftsman, every detail measured to ensure success. Her vengeance would not be quick nor haphazard. It would be nothing short of an artful assassination. The wedding of Pearl Riverside, scheduled for January 1849, set the stage for Celia's act of justice. As she assisted Rosalind in crafting an opulent menu fit for the region's elite, Celia noted each name on the guest list, envisioning their role in her meticulous tableau of retribution. Dinner parties were the Southern social currency. A feast started meals with oysters and finished them with both grandeur and grace. But Celia pictured something altogether different as she shaped the wedding menu, crafting it to suit shadier aims. Each dish was a calculated experiment, a fusion of flavor and fate. She carefully selected the special ingredients she would employ on this fateful day. With the upcoming wedding overshadowing plantation life, Celia's experiments also switched to testing doses, just enough to plant discomfort in Addison's meals during everyday dining, an innocuous reminder of the turmoil she was capable of sowing. By the time spring unfurled its gentle wings over the Mississippi in 1849, Celia Washington stood ready. Her plan was no longer a matter of if, but when, drawing toward its solemn conclusion. On the dawn of the wedding day, vessels simmered with ambition in the main house kitchen, while shadows of a different nature danced across Celia's steely disposition. Are you eagerly anticipating the climax of this tale as much as we are? Tell us your thoughts below. Before the final chapter of Celia's story unfolds, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss it. The 27th of January 1849 dawned crisp and clear, with the early frost blanketing the riverside grounds, promising a day of celebration. Guests arrived, filling the estate with laughter and anticipation for Pearl Riverside's wedding, an event meant to signify unity and prosperity. As the family and their guests congregated, an unassuming Celia orchestrated the day behind the scenes, hastening her assistance with precision. Celia directed the culinary orchestra with poise, each dish a masterstroke in a symphony only she could hear. The wedding itself, held in a lavishly adorned garden, brimmed with joyous oblivion. Celia observed from the sidelines, her heart not swayed by the celebrations, focused only on the grand finale, awaiting her meticulous hand. Guests filed into the dining room, bathed in soft candlelight reflecting on shimmering crystal and polished silver. Aged wine filled the air with a heady aroma as toasts to the happy couple were made. Celia subtly signaled her team. The courses began rolling out, each crafted with the distinct intent to bring a reckoning. The first course was served without incident, oysters delivering their salty allure, heightened by the whisper of Celia's special touch, a preparation intended to prelude stronger concoctions. The turtle soup followed, drawing praise that reached Celia's ears through the dining room's grand doors. Each palatable success doubled as a prelude to calamity, orchestrated by Celia's hardened resolve. The heart of the feast lay within the main course, dishes tailored to punish culprits with precision. Colonel Thompson relished a pork dish seasoned with a particular concoction of autumn herbs. The effects would be deliberate, slowly claiming his strength. Matilda Thompson began to endure hallucinations, reliving the separation of families she had cruelly enforced. Addison's dish, a sinister blend, struck most pointedly. Celia had reserved a unique trio of toxins, each with a delayed effect, intending to render him helpless even in full consciousness, symbolic of the powerlessness he imposed on her family. The guests, unaware of their fate sealed in the meal, continued the evening in camaraderie until sudden ailments sparking panic swept through the hall. Fascinating, isn't it, how a routine event turned untoward with healthful merriment descending into disarray? Share what you think shaped Celia into carrying out such an intricate plan of justice. As chaos bloomed around her, Celia quietly excused herself to the shadows, abandoning the frenetic din for the secluded respite of the kitchen. There, she penned one last message, a missive of closure that tied death to justice, a testament to her vengeance. For Thomas, Mary, and David, justice has been served. Celia Washington. Placing the paper visibly upon the kitchen table, she discarded her apron, stepping silently into the night, leaving only echoes behind to tell her tale. As the guests lay suffering, Celia Washington vanished into the darkness, leaving the legacy of poisoned porcelain plates, a stark reminder of the quest for justice fulfilled. The aftermath of that fateful night rippled far beyond the riverside plantation, leaving an indelible mark on the Southern elite. News of the Riverside wedding massacre spread like wildfire, sensationalized in newspapers as the grim detail of 17 distinguished members succumbing during what should have been a joyous occasion took center stage. The authorities, led to the scene by Samuel, found the dining hall transformed into a grotesque tableau, the stark reality far worse than any cautionary tale. The urgency of the mystery intensified upon discovering Celia's note. Her carefully chosen words served two purposes, a confession and a declaration that reverberated through Warren County and beyond. For Thomas, Mary, and David, names unfamiliar to many but seared into the heart of Celia Washington, investigators pinpointed poisoning as the cause, though unraveling the lethal cocktail proved complex. The symptoms varied widely among the victims, each reflecting Celia's personalized vendetta. The colonel, returning from his business trip, was himself caught off guard by the magnitude of the betrayal nestled within his own household. Reading Celia's message, his composure fractured, revealing the frailty of power built on a foundation of human suffering. A reward was promptly issued for Celia's capture, fueling the outrage felt by other plantation owners. She became the elusive specter haunting the thoughts of the Southern gentry. Posters proclaiming her whereabouts dotted towns, offering substantial sums for justice, or perhaps the guise of justice they deemed fit for a woman who had turned their world on its head. Yet Celia, the woman who had resolved to claim her destiny, appeared to vanish into thin air. The rumors were as varied as they were numerous. Some swore Celia had escaped northwards, protected by abolitionists who revered her audacity. Others spun tales of her hiding deep within the swamps. Yet none of these conjectures captured the precise truth of her whereabouts. Celia had executed her escape with the same precision as her acts of justice, leaving no trace but the written echo of her children's names. Her legacy, however, could not be erased. The realization that the oppressed could rise, orchestrating change from within, powered by knowledge and a thirst for justice. A fearsome prospect for the wealthy who watch their sense of security shatter. In homes shaken by paranoia, where cooks previously trusted now aroused suspicion, Celia Washington lingered like a whisper. Her story, though tethered to tragedy, was a beacon of empowerment from a world that sought to steal everything from her. Let us know what you think about Celia's escape and the lasting impact of her actions in the comments. Do you believe her act of revenge opened eyes about the injustices rooted in such a system? This story, woven from shadows of the past, is one of many that delve into the layered history of our shared humanity. Subscribe for more stories shedding light on what history often buries, ensuring voices like Celia's never fade into silence. Celia Washington's story transcended that single night of reckoning, becoming a narrative of resilience and autonomy that rippled through time. In the depths of the unexplored southern landscape, her spirit and actions represented a profound challenge to the deeply ingrained hierarchies of the 19th century. Her decision to brand herself with a surname of her own choice, instantly rewriting her identity, spoke louder than any weapon she could have wielded, carving out a space for her story in the annals of history. As years passed, narratives about where she might have ended her journey endured. Some believed she lived quietly in the north or crossed into Canada, where she could breathe the air of freedom untethered by her past. These were more than stories. They were the hope of justice prevailing, whispered among those who suffered in silence, whose dreams were more like Celia's than they dared admit aloud. At the Riverside Plantation, or what remained of it, the legend of Celia hung heavy. Having been sold for a fraction of its worth and the main house demolished, the place was left a spectral reminder of one woman's stand against a system that saw her as less than human. The three survivors of that dark night, the young children undisturbed by the chaos, grew with only fragments of their past, while stories they could not recall haunted their sleep. Formerly jubilant social occasions became fettered by mistrust. At gatherings once defined by Southern hospitality, the specter of Celia's act tore through festivities, casting unease over tables far beyond Riverside's reach. Many families employed new measures to ensure their safety, some paranoid enough to hire tasters, a medieval practice resurrected in a modern age by the fear Celia's smart justice inspired. Celia's legacy became a bedrock of secret admiration among the enslaved and free black communities, a beacon signaling that the endurance of injustice wasn't infinite and submission not absolute. Her memory inspired quiet acts of rebellion and nurtured the seeds of movements that would burgeon into struggles for equality and rights, decades after her last whispered promises. What remains resonant about Celia Washington's story is her humanity, her ache for justice, and the reminder that even in the tightest grip of oppression, resistance can plant roots and grow wild. Do you think Celia's act made the oppressors reconsider their stance, even in the smallest of ways? Let's discuss where you see her influence in modern contexts in the comments. Thank you for joining us in exploring this powerful chapter of history. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into hidden histories and the stories that demand to be told.